Welcome back. I am back to the Citadel. And I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Terry. And we will be going over Dynasty profiles. And to get off of my screen, I'm just going to get into stuff that I like to do. I guess I put everything up top, but let me do this. Watch this. I don't think you can see what I do up top anyway, but watch that. All right. Since it's a live stream, let's just get into some stuff tonight. Let's just actually explore, kind of go through my, I guess, a ramble session. Whatever, consider a ramble session? Maybe. I guess get into the mind of Terry, see what I'd like to look at. Always like to start at the receivers. But actually, let's go to draft year. Let's just look at the 2024 class, the rookie class. So we have Malik Neighbors. We have Malik Neighbors first, Brian Thomas. I'm looking at receiving grade, by the way. Lad McConkey, Marvin Harrison. Devon Vele gets in there. Oh, 41 catches, okay. And Jalen Coker, I see number 6. I didn't realize Vele was up that high. Let's see. Yeah, it's a rookie that's good. I think the only thing is he's, 25, 26. He might be older than that. He was drafted in the 7th round. Oh, now I know what I have to do. Because I need to see why he hit. Was it just because he was on the Broncos, or let's try to look at Vele's season with Utah. With the Utes, understand why. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I'm doing something for another video. I forgot. That's why it looks like this right now. Nah, let's go back to this one. Let me just move. Oops. I meant to move this one. Yeah, let me move me. Okay. There we go. All right. Let's try to see if we can explore. He wasn't really that good of a receiver there. Yeah, I wouldn't have. I honestly, just looking at this, I wouldn't have drafted. I see why he's a 7th round pick. I wouldn't have touched him. And when I said, for my rookie drafts, I clearly wouldn't have. Just because his stats, there's nothing that would have made me think to draft him. On the PFF side, his highest on offensive grade was 66, 69 receiving side. Passer rating, is there anything? Did he play? He played out wide, which I do like, but yards per route run was terrible. ADOT is okay. There's nothing that stands out on his contested catch, 6 out of 14 for 42%. Nothing stands out on his page. So I would never even looked his way. I honestly wouldn't. All right, let's see if I can go back. Nope. Oh, man, I just want to go back to the page I was at. No, I know how to get there, but okay. Let's go back to my position. Receiver report. Okay, let's go back to draft year. Should I do minimum targets? I might not need to do minimum targets. No, I might need to do minimum targets because now I just get people in here with 7 catches. Well, they got Jordan Whittington in there. Show how he was productive. 8 games. The only thing is he only had 28 targets, but he still was productive in those targets. And he's another one. When I look at, let me put his in another tab, and I learned something what I can do. Hold on, let me make sure I do it right. If I hit Control Tab, it goes right over. I just learned this yesterday. Anyway, he's another one. Regular season, good. 78 grade on PFF receiving grade. 2.5 yards per route run. Really didn't have any opportunities on the contested catch side of things, but he's another one. You look at the stats, right? You're like, okay, cool. Can I look at his college production and can I see any correlation? Again, here we go, 63. So I wonder if there's something, or maybe it's just the offense they're in, because you have one in Sean Payton's offense, one in McVay's offense. That's the only thing that translates. Now he did have better numbers than Vele. I can give you that. Yeah, just looking at numbers, he definitely had better numbers than Vele. But other than that, it's tough because even the final season, which is supposed to be his best season, 63 grade on the PFF scale, absolutely terrible. Didn't really do much in contested catch situations. Looks like he was better in the yards per out run early in his career. I can't remember. Did he go through injuries? Because you can see his target numbers. He really only has decent target numbers 1 year. 46 is okay, but that's not really like good volume or anything like that. So yeah, these like players like this, you would never be able to. You honestly would never be able to tell that they were anything. Is there any? Okay, all right. Let me go back to my minimum targets because I just want to look at guys that actually were on the field for a bit. All right. Oh, going to Jalen Coker. So Jalen Coker, everybody's round. What was it? Was it week 4? No. Oh, I can look here. Not week 4. It would have been probably this week 5. Everybody's darling. Yeah, 4 receptions. I'm on the receiving side. Where's the yardage at? 4 receptions, 68 yards. Yeah, because that would have been 10 fantasy points. I'm not sure if he scored a touchdown or not. But I think that's the week he opened everybody's eyes. And then week 8, I think he might have scored. And then everybody was trying to get him. I already had him. I got him in a lot of leagues before the season even started. Now, the reason I got him was his college production. And I'll show you in here in just a second. But these are solid numbers for rookies. And because if you look at just the PFF scales, you'll see a lot of good players. Like even CD Lamb, he had a down year this year. And I want to say his PFF grade was 77. So when you actually put that in perspective with a rookie, it's actually not bad. But CD Lamb's usually in the 80s or in a lot of times the 90s. But if I go to Jalen Coker and I go to his latest college season, right? And I know it's Holy Cross, smaller school, but I look at his offensive grade 89.8, receiving grade 90.5. And I'm just looking at these numbers. Now, what I like to try to do, especially for the seniors, I try to see if their junior year was pretty decent. And according to PFF, his junior year was still decent. I honestly, that's only 5 targets. Because I was going to say I really didn't pay attention to his freshman year. But I definitely paid attention to this year. And yeah, 11 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns, 915 yards. So this is what I'm looking at. And then when you come down here, his yards per out run, 3.11, 3.51. In college, I'm looking for anything over 2.5, to be honest with you. Anything over 3 is great. And the thing is, I know he went to a small school. But when I look at numbers like this and when I'm scrolling and if I see things like this, it just, in my head, it instantly pops. And I'm like, oh, this is potentially a really good receiver. Honestly, I need to look at Jalen, not Jalen. Dang, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I always do this on stream. The Utah State receiver, Jalen Royals. I need to look at his junior year to see what his yards per out run was. Because his senior year, it got cut short, but it was at 3. But there wasn't really too many people in this class. I think Dante Thornton was the only one. But his overall numbers aren't that great. Besides that, and the thing, I look at contested catch rate. I know people like to not look at it, say it's just bad for separation metrics, but personally, I like to see if you're in close proximity with with a DB or another defender. Are you going to make the catch, or how often you do it in those type of situations? I like to look at that. It shows me how good your hands are. And I've just got hip to this passer rating because it makes sense. What is the quarterback's passer rating when you're on the field or when they actually get you the ball? So I'm starting to look at that now. I didn't realize Jalen Coker's was that high in college. But yeah, and then additionally, I look at if you could play it. I, me personally, either you play out wide or you 100% playing the slot because there's another great receiver you're playing with. But if you're not playing with another great receiver, you need to be playing out wide and just being able to show that you can win out wide. And this is what I'm looking for when I look at just fantasy guys and trying to take a bet on guys. And honestly, this is what made me bet on Jalen Coker. Now he's going to have more competition with Tet coming in, but I think he could play. I think he can play a slot, and he can play out wide if he needs to. And now they still have Thielen on the team, so Thielen might. But the thing is, they put first round capital into Leggett, so I'm not sure what they're going to do. Leggett just got to show he can catch the ball, which I believe he can. He just has to show he can catch the ball. But they could have a nice trio going down for the future. But we just have to see. We have to see how both of them develop, and honestly, we'll have to see how Tet goes. I think Tet is going to be a really good player, but we'll have to see. Now, let's keep the theme going because somebody like Puka, right? If you had PFF, you'd be able to, like, the metrics, they start popping off the page for certain players, and Puka is one of them. So you see right here, 89.8 offensive grade, 90.1 receiving grade. Yeah, and this is just for his senior season, right? But you see his junior season, he still had a decent not decent, it's actually pretty good, a good PFF grade and a good receiving grade. So these are things I'm looking for. And as you continue, when I continue to scroll, I like to see played out wide a majority of the time, but he also played in the slot, so that's just a good sign. Just shows his versatility. But he played out wide. But when you look at the yards per route run, Puka's actually never been under 2.5. It's 4.42. How many targets is on? Okay, that wasn't that many targets. And I guess this is why Rome said he always knew Puka was good. But as soon as you get to BYU, 3.75, 3.53. I didn't realize Puka's yards per run was higher his junior year. But this is what I look at like. And then he gets put in McVay offense, and then he blossoms almost immediately. And when I look at his passer rating, and you could and they have a key here, so it kind of tells you, just to make sure I'm saying this right. Ooh, I gotta look. Talking about saying okay, there you go. NFL passer rating when targeted. And I guess in this instance, it'll be college. But the passer rating when targeted, 119, 133, right? So Puka's is high as well. So that's why when I'm looking at Jalen Coker, it's like, oh, in my head anyway, I'm like, oh, there's a correlation here. He might not have got drafted, but I'm going to throw him in my taxi. I'm going to see what he does. And most leagues, worked out. And a lot of times what I did, and again, it's taking a gamble, but I would throw 4th round picks. Honestly, I would throw 4th round picks at people and be like, "Hey, 4th rounder, I'll trade you a 4th rounder to get Jalen Coker." And people would do it, especially early on in the process. There was only I want to say one or two people that did not do it, and I remember one of them I tried so hard, and then it didn't make it work. It honestly didn't make it worth it. He was trying to strong arm me. Just because he knew I knew something. Okay, let's go to Andrew Armstrong. Okay, he actually did not get drafted this year. But the only thing different about Andrew Armstrong, he's a lot older. Okay, so I think it's only going to show 3 years here in PFF, but I think he's been in school 6 years. So that's the difference between Andrew. But when I'm looking at the metrics, I see 89.1, I see 89.4. I'm like, cool. I like that. His junior year, well, I don't even think this is his junior year. That might be like a redshirt senior year. I honestly don't know what year that is for him, to be honest with you. But it's decent. It's not good, but it's decent. The year before that was good, but that was it looks like Texas. I know what Amco. I can't think of what that is right now. But I looked at that and I was like, okay, I can work with that. His yards per route run never hit 3. It was at 279, 209, 281, which gets you over the 2.51 or the 2.5 threshold in those 3 years, but it's not that 3. So I'm going to take. He's the guy I'm going to be taking shots on, just because I just want to see if this part, because everything else correlates except the yards per run. But I just want to see the correlation because he plays out wide, which I like. He plays out wide majority of the time, almost 90% of the time he's played out wide. And now the passer rating too, when I started looking into it, I don't know why it was so down this year, because 82 compared to 106. I wouldn't happy if it was 106 this senior year. But it's at 82. I'm not totally sure. The contested catches, I like. It looks like when he got to Arkansas, maybe it was just a transition for him the previous year, because this year is, to me, he dominated. But the only thing is, the weird thing about everything is he only had 1 touchdown this year, which probably was a knock on his profile, because I think when I looked at Puka, he had 15 and then 11 his junior year. Now, I'm not sure who Arkansas's quarterback is, so that could have been an issue, but I like parts of his profile. So after rookie drafts, I'm honestly going to go scoop him up, because I don't think people know who he is. And if somebody does, I'm in a couple of 32-man leagues right now who's drafting currently. And if they know who he is, then I'll lose him. But I seriously doubt they know who he is. So this is the guy, and I did a video on him, and I keep mentioning him because I believe he has the upside. Who's he with right now? I think he signed to Miami. Yeah, I think he signed to Miami. So I'm interested to see how that goes, because Miami, you have Tyreek, Waddle, Blake Washington. Let me see, Smith, Akine signed there as well. But you never know how long Tyreek's going to be there. Jalen Waddle has to stay healthy. And this guy could be similar to how Vele was. Similar to how Whittington is. Because Vele's an older guy. I know Whittington. I don't know if Whittington's an older guy. I know Vele for sure is an older guy. But if he can make an impact, and Miami is a creative offense, and him being 6'4", because I think that's why they signed Smith Akine. I think Smith Akine might be 6'4". Let me see. I just want to look up. Oh man, I don't know how to spell Smith Akine. That might be a problem. Maybe I put a hyphen. Akine H. No players found. Or maybe I just take that out. Smith. Okay. Anyway, I'm assuming Akine is over 6'1". So I think that'll be interesting with Miami if he actually makes the team or makes the roster. Yeah, that'll just add more fuel to the fire. Because last year I was doing that with a couple of guys. But what I started realizing is the guys that primarily played slot in college, if they weren't necessarily rated a top pick beforehand, they don't usually translate over that well. If only of the ones that play primarily slot. Now the guys that play out wide, yeah, they have higher chances. Somebody like, who was I just thinking of? Jalen Royals. I want to look at Jalen Royals because I want to see the year prior down here. So he doesn't really hit the high 80s like I want. PFF has grades him well. He did get 4th round draft capital. So he had a 2.26 then a 3 this year. So he plays out wide, which I do like. He's mixed it up with the slot a little bit this year. Passer rating, 100, 142. So if I can get him in, I'll say 3rd rounds. It depends. With the running backs, because there's a lot of good running backs that went later in drafts this year. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. To be honest with you, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But I like the chances on some of these guys when I'm just looking at it. Okay, let's go back, and I'm just remembering all these buttons and whatnot. Probably okay. I want to go to draft year. Let's go back to 2024. Let's see if there's anybody else. So you have Keon Coleman. I really wasn't too high on him beforehand, and not going to be high on him right now. Rome. So Rome and Xavier Worthy. I was not high on Xavier Worthy at all, not at all, and he showed he could potentially be a very good receiver. Rome. The reason I am high on him is because of the analytics. Because when I'm over here looking at his season back at Washington, again, high 80s, which I like. And he was a senior, but he had decent numbers as a junior. I will say good numbers. Yards per route run over 3. That's what I like to see. 2.69 the year before. It's good. Plays out wide majority of the time. Can play in the slot a little bit. Contested catch rate. That's what I like the most. He was at 70%. 17 for 24. That's what you like to see. And then the pass rating was good with him. So I think that's why I believe a lot of people are high on Rome, not necessarily on the man, that's a word for you, statistical side of things, but he can do a lot, and I think he will be good. And the crazy part is with him, isn't it? One of these years are the COVID year. This must be the COVID year. So he really doesn't play this year. And then, so he really plays 3 seasons after that. But the crazy part is, I remember everybody saying, "Oh, okay, he's a senior," and making it seem like Rome's so much older. And then you have Marvin Harrison. Actually, let's look at it. So Rome was born, was this June 3rd, 2002. Okay. Let's look at Marvin, and then we can actually look at why everybody is so high on Marvin, or was so high on Marvin before last year. So as you see, high 80s, right? Basically a 90. And then you see that here, he was a 90 his sophomore year. But let's look at the birthday. I thought that's 4 months apart. They're 2 months apart. But he's a junior when he comes out. Like, okay. So that was the only thing when people were saying that. I'm like, Rome's really not even that old. But the reason people like Marvin, the 3.15 yards per run here, 3.44. Yeah, that clearly was making him top dog. Contested catch rate should have been better, but it was better his sophomore year. Did he even play that much his freshman year? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, then, all right, let's look at somebody like Malik Neighbors. And then we'll look at Brian Thomas to understand, and then I'll try to explain where I'm coming from on that side. All right, so Malik Neighbors, elite numbers across the board. His junior year, elite. The crazy thing is, his sophomore year, he was in, how do I explain it? He was in draft talks, but he wasn't going to be anywhere near as high as he went. But if you're looking down here, his yards per route run is 3.81. Absolutely absurd on the volume that he had. And that's the thing. And the thing is, man. And see, this is what I do. I just I'm just over here. I go on PFF, look at stats like this, and I just look at numbers, and I try to look at other players who kind of profile to these guys that actually are pretty decent, right? So like if you look at Malik Neighbors' age, he was a true when his junior year was like whatever age you're supposed to be. Malik Neighbors was that age because he's still 21 now. And I'm looking. Yes, rated 142. Okay, let me look at. I'm going to look at Brian Thomas, and then I want to look at Trey Harris because I want to see. Because everybody thinks saying. Because the thing was, Brian Thomas, he was supposed to be a developmental guy because it's like his route running is not that good, and then he comes into the league and he just tears it up. But I'm thinking, if they're saying the same thing about Trey Harris, he only runs a few routes. Doesn't matter if you can get open. So he has 15 touchdowns. He plays out wide majority of the time. Oh, that was the thing about Malik Neighbors too. I guess I probably should have mentioned. Actually, can I go back? Let's see. Oh. Hey, there we go. Yeah, I'm learning the keyboard really easily. He played both actually. So Malik Neighbors actually plays it out wide 46% of the time and in the slot. 53% of the time. So that kind of just showed his versatility big time. And then he went to a coordinator with Dave Ball that emphasized that part of his game. Brian Thomas, majority out wide. Really never had an efficient season. He did have a productive season. But when you start thinking about it, he played with Malik Neighbors, and that's what messed me up with Brian Thomas, to be honest with you. And I wish I would have looked at this passer rating thing. I did not know it was 150 throwing him the ball. Okay. Because I'm trying to see if there's a correlation there. Let me look at Malik Neighbors again. Malik Neighbors was what? Was it 140? Okay. Okay, so there might be a correlation there. We'll see. Because if there is, that means my man Andrew Armstrong is going to be in the lower end of this tier, if there is, because his was 80. So I need to see if there's another receiver that's in the 80s like that. Because if not, then Andrew Armstrong might be in a taxi for no reason. Let's keep moving. I wanted to look at the Trey Harris. All right, so with Trey Harris, what a lot of people know, he set the record for yards per route run this year with a 5. I think 515 if I remember right. So this year, so Trey Harris has been in school 5 years. Didn't really play. This has to be a COVID year. So really only played 4 years, but he was in school for 5. Was productive every year of his career, from what I see anyway. Yeah, because at LA Tech, it'll say 584 on 62 targets, and then once he gets 100 targets, I would say even more productive. He goes to Ole Miss and gets even better. And the crazy part is he was playing quarterback. He was Malik Neighbors' quarterback from what I learned. But you look at his senior year, like his office grade 86. Receiving grade 88.8. I like those numbers. Plays out wide. That is, for me, that is seems to be a requirement. We play out wide. I need to learn the yards after catch to see if that means too much or anything. But when I look at the yards per route run, well, from what I see, a 5.12, and then the year prior he was at 3.18. So obviously. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. And the thing is, he was a former quarterback, so he has to kind of have an idea. Contested catch rate, he had 13 opportunities, which isn't a ton, and then 24 the prior year. But his passer rating of 149.5. Now my ears are perking up, because now I might need to actually take him earlier in drafts, because he's fitting the mold that when we're looking for these potential stars, this is what this is what we have here. And he's going to a situation where he goes to the Chargers, where he has Lad McConkey, he has Justin Herbert. There's really not too much other competition unless you want to consider Quentin Johnston one, but, you know, he's going to drop the ball most of the time. So, and they can't. Jim Harbaugh, he did his best. He did his best to hype that man up. All right, let's go to Jaden Higgins because he's another profile. And I'm going to drop a video tomorrow about my top 12 players, and he is on there. Okay? So, Jaden Higgins, and actually I am looking at his 2023 season. That means I was just looking at Trey Harris' 2023 season. Still good numbers. All right. Elite numbers. We can clearly see that here. So he has a 90 offensive grade, 90.1 receiving grade, okay? Doesn't seem to drop the ball that much. Has been efficient, transferred from Eastern Kentucky. Let's see. He's been efficient ever since his sophomore year, from everything I can tell, just looking at numbers. He was efficient last year, but he was even better this year. Now, he must have played more. No, I thought he played more slot. No, but he does both, which, of course, I like. That's, again, a requirement of mine. The yards per route run, that is the only thing. Well, I can't say the only thing down because I don't know the passer rating yet. But it's above 2.5, which I like. Right? I like that. But it's not in the gaudy elite numbers of the top guys. Not even like when we talk about Jalen Coker and Puka Nacua. Those guys, when they get drafted, you're like, oh, okay. And the passer rating is at 104, which is good, but it's not the gaudy numbers that I would like to see. I didn't realize his contested catch rate was 35 either. But I do like his receiving grade. This would honestly be a little bit more in line with Andrew Armstrong. Now, Andrew Armstrong's passer rating is lower than this. The only thing is, I believe Jaden Higgins probably has more touchdowns. Let's see. Yes. Well, he only has 5. Andrew still only had 1. Oh, no. Hold on now. I'm sorry. They did the years wrong. There we go. So he had 9 this year. Still, the yards per run is still 2.6. And he was pretty consistent with that. So we'll see. That combined with the passer rating of 106. Yeah, what I need to do is go through and filter out just based on pure passer ratings. All right, let me think of a player I don't really care for. Let's go the obvious too. Let's go Luther Burden. Let's go Matthew Golden. And it's clear I don't really care for him too much. But Luther's sophomore year was really good. So I definitely like the 90 grades here. He has 77 and 80 receiving grade, which, is solid. And I would say 80 is actually good. The 77 is solid. When I come here, though, this is the thing I don't trust on his profile. He majority of the time he plays slot, right? And the one time he did play, and now, albeit it being his freshman year, he put up some pretty bad numbers. So that's the only thing that gives me like some true pause on Luther Burden, that he can only really play one spot. And it honestly, it scares me. Average depth of target, I don't think it's that high either. He did have really good yards per route run this one year. And then it fell off, obviously, because he didn't have as good of a year this past year. Contested catch rate was good. The passer rating, was okay. So I personally don't like slot-only guys. Unless they're playing with another great player, which Luther was not. Because Theo Weiss didn't even get drafted. So it makes me just pass on the profile altogether. And he may be good. Ben Johnson might know how to use him, but Yeah, it would be. He would be a second round pick for me. PFF still has him graded higher though, which just makes me think, what am I missing? But yeah, he would be. He's a second round pick easily for me. Yeah, I wouldn't draft in the first round. And same with Matthew Golden. When I look at and just analytically, let me make sure 2024. Yeah, when I look at analytically, there's no year that pops off the page. So unless he's going to be like Whittington, Vele, and Vele just only had one good year. He might not even have another good year. He was a 7th round pick. You never know what they do with him. But he never really has a good year. He does play out wide a majority of the time, which I like. So that is a good sign. The yards per out run aren't close to 2.5. I can't even like make a case for him. Oh, I forgot. In college, they do both the postseason and the regular season. Let's go ahead and add both of them in there. All right, when I do that, it gets him up to 2.1. Okay, and then he gets his gets his receiving numbers up to a decent, some decent statistics. But I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure what to make of some of these numbers, man. I'm really not. His contested catch rate was good this year. No, not the previous year. I guess there was 5 interceptions. That was his fault. Still, 2.1 is at least is over 2. But so I'm not honestly. I just looking at analytically, the profile says no. It definitely says no. Now he did get first round draft capital. Obviously, the film guys like him a lot. Some people had him as their number 1 receiver. I know Steve Smith did. There were a couple other people I can't think of the other names at all right now, but a lot of people had him the number 1 receiver, and I can't see it. He runs fast, and I hope it's not one of those stories of another guy or another receiver who's the fastest in the class, but when it gets out into the field, really doesn't do too much. So we'll see. We'll see, because he vaults into the first round off of, from what people say, the last 4 games of the season. Well, it has to be 3. It can't be this game. This game was bad. Yeah, it had to be. Honestly, it looks like it's just 2 games. Yeah, last 2 games of the season. Because he didn't do nothing this game against Ohio State. Yeah, played against Georgia. Did well against Georgia. And then, yeah, this game. So, I don't know, man. I truly do not know when I'm looking at these numbers what to make of Matthew Golden. That's just my personal opinion on that. All right, let's go back to regular season because I might look at who else can I think of just off the top of my head that may have a good profile, just not thinking of them. I don't know. I'm interested to see if they have somebody like Tyreek Hill's profile on here. Because I would be interested in seeing that. Tyreek might be a little too old, though. So they might not have his. Do they have him at halfback? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, they don't have his full profile because it's 2014. Oklahoma State. They had him at halfback. That's actually pretty funny. That definitely explains the speed and whatnot. But then he definitely plays a little bit further after that. So that doesn't. I'm just trying to think of I need to think of like a more recent type guy, because you have your Jack Smith and Jigba. He played primarily slot, but he played with other great receivers, so that cancels all that out. Man, but yeah, this is what I do. I go through rabbit holes, man, and I just look at stuff. Because, like, let's just say, okay, I'll come over here to, is it receiver versus scheme? I believe it's scheme, right? And let me get out 2014 season because that's not going to bring me any joy for anything. And I'll just look at the scheme. And so I'll look to see who's beating man coverage, who's beating zone coverage, who's doing both. And that kind of gets, it pops the ideas in the head, and it's like, okay, which players are doing both? Those are the players I need to draft in my fantasy drafts. So this is what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these drafts and looking at these players and whatnot. Let's see. And this play is just taking forever to load, and I actually need to put it in regular and postseason. So that's going to make it load even longer. And this will be the last thing before I call it. And I accidentally just took off my chat. Good job, Terry. Good job. There we go. I put it back. Oh, okay. Man. With OBS, I just realized I can do a whole bunch of different stuff. All right. I don't think anybody can see that screen. So let's move it up a little bit. Okay, let's move me back down into my little corner. Okay. So, right here, you can see we're looking at primarily man right here. Okay. Trey Harris wins against man. All right. 95% of the time. You have Jeremiah Smith, Coleman Owens, Tylen Hines. Cool. Right? All right. What I do, let's segment this out. People are supposed to be drafted in 2025 year. I'm not sure why Coleman Owens here because he's not in this draft class. But somebody like Kyle Williams, right? You can see he's beating man. Ted McMillan, Elijah Badger, Jaden Higgins, Restrepo. You see all these players. You can see they're winning against man. And this is why I have Andrew Armstrong. He's number 10 if I'm just looking at this class. And if I look overall, he's like 20 something, right? Or 18. So if I'm looking at it like that. But and I'll look at the yards per route run, which is absolutely absurd for Trey Harris, right? Just saying he's winning at that type of level is insane. But I'll also come over here to the zone side of things, all right? And now he's not winning as well against zone. His yards per route run is still crazy, but zone he tapers off a bit. But what I do, who's the names that's popping back up? Jaden Higgins pops up. Andrew Armstrong pops up. I have a Jack Best sighting. Jalen Noel pops up. Pat Bryant pops up. So and then I'll scroll back on this side just to see. Now Coleman Owen must be a slot only guy because this isn't making any sense. 5'11", 191. I'm gonna go that he's a slot only guy. Yeah, slot receiver. Yeah, and he's been in college forever too. And after that, I'm like, yeah, I'm off your profile. Thank you, though. Appreciate you. Yeah, so, but this is what I do. And then I come back. So, Pat Bryant wins against man and zone. Jeez. No wonder why he won the third round. Makes sense now. But Andrew Armstrong does both well. So, why did Pat Bryant get a... Okay, so, let's look at this. 126. Andrew Armstrong against man. Passer rating was 69. Okay. That might be the reason why then. Pat Bryant in zone, 144. Andrew Armstrong, 85.7. That's the reason. Okay. Somebody like Jack Best, right? Okay, so Pat Bryant, somebody to look at. For sure. Somebody that you might be able to take later in drafts. Jack Best wins better against zone than he does man, which is good because I'm about to show you a few things. And you have Ricky White, who wins against zone, but I don't think he wins against man that well. Yeah, he doesn't win against man that well. Keandre Lambert pops up. This is starting to make sense why some of these guys got drafted. Just looking at stuff like this. Now, what I like to do, again, is compare years. All right. No plays or pass attempts. Oh, nice. I'm going to have to refresh the page. Was it F5? There we go. Man, learning the keyboard is so much fun. But I like to compare years. I like to see in the previous year, what were these numbers looking like? Because nobody's going to have a 10 yards per hour run. But when we start looking at player grades and those profiles, those can start to sync up pretty easily. And what I believe, if I remember right, is it because I'm on draft year? Yeah, it is. Good job, Jerry. Good job. Hey, look, because I'm on draft year, and they're like, there's nobody here from this draft class. We can't help you. Okay? Yeah, that's what they were saying. Yeah, we can't help you. Nobody's here. Everybody drafted is either in the NFL or they don't play anymore. But when this pops up, I believe, if I remember right, Malik Neighbors is tops in zone. Yards per hour run. And probably PFF grade. Yeah, because PFF grade was just great. Yeah, but when you start looking at the numbers, things start matching up. You're like, oh, okay, this explains stuff a lot better. And even though we can't see it like on film or whatnot, you start to get a clearer picture. So you see Malik Neighbors wins against man, Rome, same with Rome, Malik Washington, okay, all these guys, right? Win against man. When you start putting it against zone, yeah, Malik Neighbors up there. Malik Washington is actually still back up there. Only thing about Malik, he only plays slot, and I didn't know that last year. Well, not that I didn't know it. I didn't understand it like how I do now this year. But he only plays slot. So unless he could play out wide, that's the only thing. So you start to try to find the similarities, right? So Rome's still up here. Marvin Harrison's up here, right? I've seen Troy Franklin, but Troy Franklin is not making me look good right now. But you have Malik Neighbors up top here, okay? And kind of put it in another perspective against the guys like winning in zone and whatnot. What season is that? 2022. Yeah, for the guys that win against zone, it seems like they may correlate better to the NFL, just because of, from what I hear, when people run the too high safety, that look, and quarterbacks, they need the soft spots to throw to, and then so those people that know how to find those spots in the zone, changes the game. Makes it easier for the quarterback, get more targets. Hey, you feel happy about your catches. But Malik Neighbors obviously can do both. Rome can do both. Harrison can do both. Now, I believe for all three of these guys, they're going to have some good to great years this year. So we have Josh Downs back in that 2023 draft class. I don't know some of these guys. Tank Dale, of course. Oh, Tank Dale, yeah, definitely Tank Dale. Pop Douglas, that's a good name. Jake Bobo pops on here. Just traded him for a 2.25 pick. A.T. Perry, but okay, let's scroll back over here. Look over here. If we do it, look at the two people that pop up, Puka and Rashee Rice. Now, Hutchinson really didn't do anything, which I think scares some people. But both of these guys pop up. And I'm like, oh. Was not expecting that at all. But Puka was just okay against man. And Rashee was absolutely terrible against man, to be honest with you. I didn't realize Rashee's yards per hour run was that low, though. Against man. His zone is really good. 3.85, and then Puka's 3.81. So these are things I look at. especially when trying to make some player comparisons and trying to just understand why a player gets picked, why a player gets drafted, if I can find some value somewhere. I always tell people if I would have just had PFF just a year earlier, I would have had Puka Nacua on my team. And I'm pretty sure I would have championship. I had to trade for Puka in that one league. And then basically I got off of Puka for Rome and JSN. But this is what I do, and then I just look at other numbers. Wide receivers, I feel like I can tell better than other positions. Running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks, I still struggle with. And I'm just trying to find bits and pieces of information for each one of them to see if I can find something that can give me an advantage. Because if I can find something that gives me an advantage, then I could just win more fantasy championships. But this is the Citadel, Dynasty Citadel.